Shalom, everyone. We started a new Masechet, Masechet Baba Metzia, the second Baba, the second gate in Seder Nezikin. And as we saw in Masechet Baba Kama, Masechet Baba Metzia will continue to develop laws that appear in the Torah, especially in Parashat Mishpatim and Parashat Ki Tetzeh, that deals with a lot of civil law, relationships between people. And mostly, the one thing that will continue throughout Masechet Baba Metzia is how can we decide what belongs to whom? We started with the first perek, Shnaim Ochozim. How do we know who that object or field or anything else belongs to a person? And Masechet Baba Metzia will discuss this in length, but what we hear about, the topic that we hear about in the first perek of Shnayim Ochozim and the second perek of Elu Metziot, but which we also found in Daf Tet, page 9 of Baba Metzia, is the matter of a lost and found matters. And indeed, what we have in the Torah is a little bit in length, but still there's details there that we don't hear. In other words, how long do we have to keep the found thing with us till the owner will come? And can I use that thing while as long as it's in my hands, and more? But the one thing I want to emphasize before we delve into the sources of today is that the Torah really emphasizes, both in Mishpatim, in Ki Tetzeh, in Parashat Kedoshim, that no matter what you deal with lost and found, you deal with deposit, you deal with cheating, you deal with hiring people, and what does the owner owe the workers that work for him in the house, in the field. But it seems that the Torah emphasizes it, and the Masechet, the entire Seder Nezikin, emphasizes it, that in the Hebrew law, in the Jewish law of the Torah, this is not just a civil law that has to do with a relationship between people and contact and contracts and some agreement about what we should do in order to keep the society quiet and still and working. It seemed that the Torah expected from us people a higher behavior. In other words, the Torah gives us some laws, like returning a lost object, to behave in a better way, in a chesed way, not just according to the law, but above the law or beside the law, like be better than just what the cold, direct law is telling us to do. The phrase in Hebrew is lifnim meshurat hadin, and this is the relationship that the Torah would like us to have amongst ourselves. Keep repeating the word achicha, yeah, amongst ourselves. There's a special arevut, there's a special bonding between the people, and some laws that definitely might have belonged to economic laws or how to keep a just society. In the law of the Torah is part of chesed. It's part of a higher behavior between people. So I am sharing the sources for today, and let's look inside of what we have. So the page 9 of Baba Metzia is quoting a Mishnah, the Mishnah that says that if one was riding on an animal and saw a found item and said to another person who was walking beside him, "Give it to me," if the pedestrian took it and said, "I have acquired it for myself," he has acquired it by means of lifting it, even though he did not see it first. But if after giving it to the owner, to the person who rides the animal, he said, "I acquired it for myself at the outset. He has said nothing, and the writer keeps the item. So this in this little Mishnah where the Gemara will expand on, I want us to notice two things. One, there's a question of the item belongs to whom? To the person who saw it first, to the person who lifted up, to the person who said, "This is mine." Okay, that's one thing which we're not going to look. But I want us to hear the words that the Mishnah is using, because the Mishnah is using, he saw a found item. Vera'a et Metzia. There's something on the road that he knows somebody lost and it belongs to someone, or he knows that it's there and no one's around it, so it has no owners, and he picks it up. But the Metzia, the found item, is the topic. Now, the question of find item, we see it. We'll meet it again and again and again in the beginning of Bava Metzia. But I want to look a little bit on the psukim that the Torah discuss a matter of lost and found, and we have in two places. One in Sefer Shmot in Parashat Mishpatim, and the other in Sefer Dvarim in Parashat Kitetse. And the verse in Shemot is saying the following: Ki tifga shor oivecha o chamoro to'eh hashev teshivenu lo. When you encounter your enemy's ox or ass wandering, you must take it back. So immediately we start with a higher expectation of behavior. If you find something in your way that has no owners around it, and you know it belongs to somebody, even if he is your enemy, you must take it back. You should return it to the person. You should not claim ownership of him, or you should not say, he's my enemy, I don't want to give it back to him. There is a mitzvah to take it back to the owner. And in Sefer Dvarim, the elaboration is much bigger. And there in Sefer Dvarim it says, Lo tir'eh shor achicha. You should not look at the ox of your brother and ignore it. If you see your fellow Israelite ox or sheep gone astray, do not ignore it. Okay, so there's a obligation to bring it back, to take it back. There's also an obligation of not ignoring it. You saw something on the street, you know who it belongs to, just walk by and say, oh, somebody will give it to him. There's a mitzvah of not ignoring. You must take it back to your peer. And here there's another emphasis on the peer, on the community of the brother, your fellow man and woman. These are, that's the immediate group where you have to be responsible also to their belongings. And the Torah in Dvarim continues and says, okay, it's not only the brother that you know who he is and he lives close to you. If your fellow Israelite does not live near you, or you do not know who he is, who the owner is, you shall bring it home and shall remain with you until your peer claims it. Then you shall give it back. And again, you have to give it back. You have to keep it in your house until the owner will come to claim it. But you should also do it to someone who's not close to you. And I think not close to can either mean geographically, or can also mean emotionally or mentally or ideologically. In other words, somebody who's far away from you in many aspects. Like the word in Shmot was oyev, but here is not your enemy, but it's just somebody who's so far away and you don't even know who he is. You should take it and you should keep it till he'll come to claim it. And the last thing that the Torah in Dvarim is telling us, you shall do the same with a person's ass. You shall do the same with a person's garment. You should do and so too shall you do with anything that your fellow Israelite loses. In other words, there's no room of saying, this is too big, I can't take it home. Or I'm sure he doesn't mind about that, so either I'll leave it on the road or I'll take it and I use it myself. Anything. And the Torah here is giving us all fields of many things. Chamor, simla, anything. it's not just chamor and simla, it's anything that you have an insight that it's something that might be important to another person, and it's either worth a lot of money or maybe it's sentimental, you find it, you must not remain indifferent. Again, the mitzvah is also lo lit'alem, do not ignore, do not remain indifferent. And when do you have this obligation? If you find it, metzata. If you find it, you must take care of it, and you must not ignore, and you must take it back, and you must wait till your fellow Israelite will come and claim the thing. Now, the laws of the Torah, who were giving to Am Israel in Matan Torah in Har Sinai after the Yetziat Mitzrayim, is giving a codex of laws to Am Israel, where as around the people of Israel, around in the region, both in Bavel, in Canaan, and in Egypt, there are rules of how people should behave. And one of the most fascinating things to do when we learn the laws of the Torah is to compare them to what was known at that time. And one of the biggest codex of law that we have from the ancient world, from the Babylonian time, ancient Babylonian, between the 18th century BCE and the 12th, 11th century BCE, is what's called Chukei Hammurabi, the Hammurabi laws. Here, what you have here is a stone, is a black stone that was found in Bavel. You can see here the king sitting on his reign, and Hammurabi is saying that he's writing these laws, 262 laws, social laws, just laws. He's writing it in the name of the king of the sun, to bring justice to the world. And the Hammurabi laws were found in the beginning of the 20th century. And since then, people were looking at Chukei Hammurabi and looking at the laws of the Torah and saying, wait a second, there's some similarities here. And the similarities are fascinating and are not surprising. As Rav Kook said in the beginning of the 20th century, he said, it's fascinating. And it's only a proof that people who created in the image of God, if they're good people, they have a moral insight inside of them, they can definitely understand what's the right way to behave. But the most interesting thing and the most important thing for us as Jews looking in the Torah is not what's similar, but what's fascinating is what's different. Because what is different in the civil law and in the civil law of the time, or what was in the eyes of the Torah considered to be a moral law, that's the new message of the Torah. That's the new expectation that the Torah has from people of taking responsibility over other people. And if we compare laws of lost and found in the laws of Hammurabi, there are 3 different laws, 9, 10, and 11. And let's see how are they different from what we read in the Torah in terms of lost and found. So Hammurabi, again in the 18th century BCE, and law number 9 says, Im ish ibed rechush, if a person lost property, right there's a difference, because the Torah starts not with the person who lost, the Torah starts with the person who found. The difference is that you have responsibility over the loss of your friend, of your fellow, okay? The laws of Hammurabi puts the responsibility on the person who lost. If a person lost property and found his property in the hands of another, and the other person claimed that he bought the property honestly, the one who loses will bring witnesses that his property is his. The responsibility lies on the person who lost. You lost something, it's your problem. Now you should go and prove that this thing that somebody else bought, maybe honestly, that this thing is yours. If you can bring the proof, then it's okay. And the buyer will bring witnesses to the purchase, and the judges will decide according to the evidence that will be given in the presence of God. In other words, in the presence, like they we'll do a just, you have proof that it's yours, you have proof that you bought it honestly, now we will decide who it belongs to. But it's so interesting to see that the first responsibility, the one who needs to bring proof that is his to begin with, is the person who lost. The Torah also asks the person who lost something to bring evidence that it's his. But the responsibility of taking care of something that got lost is on the person who found the item. And you don't claim it to be yours if it belongs to somebody else. And you have the obligation to take care of it. The other interesting difference that we find here is in terms of the punishment, because it says that if every seller of property in the chain, like somebody said, I bought it from this person, and he said, I bought it from that person, if they all bring witnesses for where they bought it, the one who cannot prove, he is the thief, and he will put to death. Okay, the immediate punishment is death. The property will be returned to its rightful owner, and the buyer will receive the purchase price from the thief property. There is a dance here between what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And if we continue to see law number 10, it says that if the buyer cannot identify the person who sold it to him or bring witnesses to a legal purchase, and the loser brought witnesses to identify his property, the buyer will be put to death as a thief, and the loser will receive back his loss. It's not about relationship. It's not about arevut hadadit. It's not about civil responsibility. It's about money. It's about who needs to be punished for what, and who needs to be compensate for the money. And maybe the last thing is for me is a little bit shocking, is that if the loser can bring witnesses to prove his loss, he will accused of fraud and put to death. Okay, just like that. Many times we lose things and we can't prove they belong to us. But if I go back to the Torah, and we go back to Masechet Bava Metzia, and we understand that Shnaim Ochazim, it's not just, this part belongs to me and this part belongs to me. And when someone sees something on the way, a Metzia, a found item, wait a second, let's think who it belongs to. But the most important thing to begin with, as the Torah tells us, is you have responsibility not only on your own property and belongings, but you have a responsibility out of arevut adadit, out of caring for each other. You have responsibility if you find something that doesn't belong to you, and there's a chance that somebody else lost it and would like to get it back. And as it's not relevant whether he is your friend, your enemy, somebody you know and close to you, or somebody you don't know and he's even far away from you, we have the responsibility of bringing back, not ignoring, and uh, um, feeling responsible for anything that fellow Israelite lost.
אוקיי, אבל לא, אם זה היה משהו מז'ורי אז הייתי עוצר אותך, אבל אני מהסס לכתוב